Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing live show number 402. My name is Loren Gray. I'm the host of today's show from beautiful Netherlands in Europe as our continued travel sagas continue, which has been kind of fun to kind of have that experience add to our discussions here on the live show um, because it gives firsthand. For most of the travel pre-COVID and then during COVID, minus the lockdown, it's been a series of tepid waters and or full abandon, um, been different types of travel and experience. And this is my first venue back into international travel again. And through it comes all the experiences of the unfamiliar, what's changed, what's still the same, what expectations to have, what's been the impact of the lockdown and the presence of COVID to what it was when it was first in our world to where it is now. And through that process, I've come to have how we as marketers address what we do in collaboration with the facilitation of operations. So, ironically, today's show, although it be about hospitality marketing, as always, the driving connection is the symbiotic relationship with operations from the perspective of deliverables. So, today's show is about the handoff from the marketing efforts to the operations and the handing back to marketing, the relationship building afterwards. Um, I had really, through the process, I see marketing as being integrated to everything: the discovery phase, the education phase, the conversion phase, the pre arrival phase, the duration of their stay phase, and then the post stay communications, but always from the driving interest of the generation of revenue. I mean, after all, marketing is the tip of the spear when it comes to the efforts related to revenue generation. We're there to communicate, which we often said is the primary value proposition of marketing, but we're also there to convey and convince. And through that process, we can sometimes lose sight of the experience of the operations relationship with the guest and the inheritance from that engagement in our marketing. And that comes from authenticity, it comes from consistency, and it comes from not being tone deaf. Now, this isn't directly related to my first person experiences as of now, but I see it happening in and around me. The expectations of those people that are coming and the complete naivety of what they're doing in the sense that this is their first time somewhere. I've had the benefit of traveling over here several times. And because of that, I have a higher familiarity, still don't speak the language, but have a familiarity of the geographic relevance of places, the reality of what it is to actually at a destination that has tourist guided things to do, and the logistics associated with those from a firsthand perspective. As they say, a seasoned traveler has a different view than the adventuresome new traveler. And to that end, I also say that I miss the uniqueness of the news of travel, the uncertainty principle, and it was kind of reborn again in this trip with me back to here, in the sense that as familiar as I was with what it had been prior to COVID, I really didn't have a clear expectation as to the realities was like now that COVID, we're past that first initial terror of COVID and the dramatic impact that it's had on so many people's lives. Um, but that being said, from a hospitality perspective, the anticipation, the communication, I saw really didn't change much. It was kind of like as we were doing our research for this trip, it seemed like the same content in the same format, in the same modalities and frequencies and urgencies and offers were just turned back on from prior to COVID. There was no real translation of the new emergence of what travel would be like. And I say this from an FAQ perspective as to content. We talked about that in the last week's show as to the genuineness and authenticity of content and the showability of that content in the discovery versus discovering process that people have in travel. But it's also in the continuity of operations. And I say that from firsthand experience, where in preparation for this, we're bringing our small dog Edison over, and it was the first time, and we were already nervous. We never wanted to put any time ever our dog in below the plane. We always in the cabin if it was at all possible. But because of the international traveling, you can't do that. And I say that with a caveat that that's not always true. And so there was a lot of preparation and planning for it. And the reality was um, that what we had to educate ourselves from, first off, wasn't really truly found. The authenticity of what we really did wasn't really from the airlines and from the government agencies. It was from seasoned travelers that were faced with the challenges that they had and shared what not to do next time or what you could do better next time. And so we went in fully aware of the guidelines of the airline that we're flying with and fully aware of the things that we had done to satisfy all those things. None of that was true. I wouldn't say none of it. It was just the things that were outlined by the airline were not enforced by the airline. Now that was going in one way. I fully anticipate coming back from the other way that that will be different. And so that FAQ process, that sharing of content, the reality of the content, I was very happy that I found other places of resources that gave me that content because it did prepare me for that variability and the variabilities that we had. But by the same token, they should not have been the author of that content. They shouldn't have the authority of that content. It should have been the service providers, and that's where we fall down in hospitality as hotels. The expectations we glamorize from a marketing perspective what we do to solicit the engagement with guests, future guests, to purchase with us, and then we hand them off to operations upon their arrival. Now we have good marketers will try to engage guests in their stay duration to ensure that things are connected to what was presented, things are going well, so that we can avert any negativities early on rather than have them fester and become larger issues that get shared with other people because we didn't address them in a timely manner. So marketing does try to be in that process, but the real weight being carried during a guest stay is operations. And what they do for the time that they have the guest and their engagement is truly what we inherit back from them as marketers when we do the post stay engagements with them. If we're still all sunshine and roses and we don't keep mindful that people had some sort of experience during a certain period of time through uh, maybe no fault of our own power outages, maybe no fault of our own weather issues, where we had things that happened that created a negative impact for a number of people, and that we caught them, but we caught them too late in their stay, and now they're beginning to re-engage with their social bases. And we're all sunshine and rainbows going, hey, it's so great you stayed with us, looking forward to coming back. And they're kind of like, did you read my review? Because that's not what I had. And it begins to spiral out of that because that's tone deaf. That is us not seeing the feedback that we have. A perpetual awareness of reviews for a property is paramount. Being aware of what people say. Now, obviously, it is a minority compared to the majority of people that engage with a hotel. If you have even a 100-room hotel, you have thousands of people over the course of days that have engaged with you. And talking to one or two people on on social media and or consumer review sites is a fraction of that iceberg. But what we don't tend to remember as much as we should is the huge silent audience that watches that engagement, that sees what others say, that empathizes with what was said by a person that they see stayed about the same time they did and had the same experience. Or maybe they were just going to be quiet about it because they didn't want to share that they had a poor experience because they don't want to say that to their friends that they made a poor decision. But because the review was there, it encouraged them to say, you know what, it really was that bad, or it really was this issue. As marketers, we need to be sensitive to those things so that we're listening as much as we're telling. We should actually be talking with rather than telling to. We've talked about that as a marketing communication tool all the time. And so that process of operations handing it back to us, operations needs to let marketing know, hey, we hit a rough patch or we had an amazing time. And it's a good chance for us to amplify our communication extensions to our guests, to realize that they came off of a huge, wonderful success. The hotel was a rocking success. We went through a huge event period or a spring break period or a summer period or a ski season period or whatever it is. And it's really a good idea to solicit our guests from that time period. One, to encourage them to return, which is our marketing duty. And the two is to collaborate with them and saying, could you share what you've done and what you enjoyed with us with others? Here's some tools to do that with. So this handoff between marketing's creation of expectations and fulfillment of conversion to the getting those people back into the discussions of post-stay engagement, lifetime value of the guest, future value of the relationships of what we can offer and solicit them to participate in more, the ability for them to collaborate with others, to share their story with others so that they too turn into advocates and stay with us. All that process is hinged upon the sensitivity of marketing listening to the guest and marketing working with and collaborating with operations when it comes to what was handed to them and what was handed back. We handed them a group of people with full expectations based on all the things we told them. Let's see what we bring back. Did we fulfill those obligations? Were there things that fell short of those? Were there things that exceeded those? All of that has to be a part of the dialogue of how we engage the guest post stay. That necessity of building up. I also want to kind of equate it to, in times in all of our lives, the courtship phases of our lives when you're young and you're trying to meet people and so forth. You always put your best foot forward. As marketers, we always try to put the best foot forward of the property. We don't talk about as much the downturns. We don't say, well, we're a great location hotel, but the XYZ hotel is better. We don't really say that. We only really highlight the value proposition that we are, and we don't necessarily not tell them that there are things closer, but we don't often solicit that there are, that there's a better restaurant around the corner. We'll tell them the restaurant's around the corner and how great it is, especially if it's an augmentation of their stay. But we also try to make sure that they're aware of our restaurant for convenience, value, cost, whatever it is. We try to keep that balanced perspective in our communications, much like you are on a first engagement a date with someone. Your best foot forward, you dress nicely, you try to listen, you try to communicate, you try to hear what it is that's being said so that you can respond in a way that you think is received well. As the relationship grows, then there's the better familiarities. I've been there a few times, and yeah, the room's okay, but they're a little small, or the elevator's a little slow, and it always kind of messed up our schedule for the day because during certain times of the day it was so busy, and they only had that one elevator that you really have to plan around the fact that that elevator is going to slow you down at certain times of day. These are the realities of their engagement with our hotel or our resort. They need to be dealt with in a marketing perspective, that you're telling the truth without it being a reason not to stay. Like, well, if you like fast elevators, you're not going to like us. That's not really the way you do it. What you do mention is the fact that because of the popularity of the resort, the location of the resort, whatever it is like this, that there's always others that are enjoying it as well. So keep in mind that this is, 5 o'clock somewhere mentality kind of thing or something, the old Jimmy Buffett phrase. And because of that, you're going to be dealing with a lot of other people that are also wanting to enjoy what the amenities of the resort have to offer or the hotel has to offer without the distraction or the displacement of other guests. So being as a marketer to share the content that's necessary. Hey guys, if you really have a tight schedule, we recommend that you see when you make your reservations if there's lower floors you can stay on, less requirement of the elevator. I say this I had a client in New York, and they're no longer a client, so I get to talk to them about them a little bit more directly. I won't say names or anything like this. They had one elevator, and it was a small footprint hotel in New York, Midtown New York, very tall, okay, 40 plus floors. And that one elevator wasn't big, and there was only 5 units per floor, which made it very unique and very special. But that many floors, those rooms, one elevator, there was always a challenge. So we were doing work on the elevator, so it wasn't always functioning all hours of the day. And they had to use the service elevator, which is no fun. Not exactly the best good-looking thing anyway. Anyway, we had it where anybody that was below 10 floors, we called them the athletic floors. We gave them a better rate, and we gave, on each of the landings of the stairs, we had a refreshment station, water, juices, so forth, snacks that they could grab freely. And the idea of it was the solicitation that if you're young and energetic and you either want a discount or want to do this, and you don't have to be young and energetic, just you want to do this, we'll give you a discount for the rooms 10 floors and lower, and don't use the elevator. and we'll refresh you all the way up and all the way down. And we offer breakfasts in the morning, health breakfasts and so forth to get them to stay and not be inconvenienced by the elevator. Then turned into a fun thing. We had it, how many floors could you run? How many floors can you go up and down and so forth? We actually had some fitness trainers come in and have it as a part of people that if they wanted to, they could do a few floors, and we started doing it in sections in different levels of the hotel, so that yes, they still use the elevator, but it didn't mean because they were in the first 10 floors. It meant that they were willing to do that in a certain spectrum of floors, like the old hotel adage. If you remember from any hotel that you've ever had that had multiple floors, and that was one up, two down. That was the rule, never to use an elevator. If what you had to do was one floor up, you use the stairs. And if it was two floors down, you use the stairs. Um, that way, the staff took less stress on the elevators. Even if you had service elevators, you did that because the housekeeping staff in full swing, that elevator is theirs, or engineering, it's theirs. You should not be room servicing a service elevator in the middle of housekeeping run. And you don't want to inconvenience guests by having room service go up the guest elevators. So collaborating with the housekeeping and engineering teams and going up when they're going up and coming down when they're coming down. And if you can find a way to get up one flight or down two flights without using the elevators, that's what you did. Um, these kind of things, when it comes to us as marketers, is the sensitive conversations and the content topics. These are the things that we need to make sure are as close to truth as they can be without being negative or candid, okay? With open channels of communication that you listen to. Knowing that you're going to hand this person over like a first date, like, okay, first date, best impression. Second date, continuance of that best impression. By third, fourth, fifth, sixth date, more truth, more clarity, more information, more shareability, more candor, okay? You can't hide from a regular guest everything. It's like you can't have in-laws come in for 3 days, and well, you can, and hide, that you're not a messy person or something, because come day 4 or 5, your truisms are going to come out and you're going to show off a little bit of your true colors that you might have been hiding from. Same too with some of the stays at your hotel for either duration or frequency. They're going to see the slips in the skirt, that you aren't always on the best. Something happens, whether it's an air conditioning issue, a water leak issue, a false fire alarm, partial construction, elevator that has issues, restaurant that didn't open, or service that was an issue. By frequency or by duration, they always come true, because we all have those things. The best hotels and resorts in the world still have those issues. It's how we handle that content, how we make sure that the guest is prepared to understand that they can talk to us and share with us, and so we can correct for it without having to think that they have to go out and find an audience to complain to and to get our attention to do something about it. As marketers, we have that obligation of collaboratively working with operations to know what the experiences were of the guests, the maintenance of the services that we say are there, and to bring it to their attention should we get feedback otherwise. Also to share compliments with them when we get them, because they often don't hear the end of the stories, and we as marketers tend to. And so when we hear good stories, we should share them with our teams and operations to acknowledge them and thank them and reward them for what successes they created for us in fulfilling what we shared as marketing reasons for people to stay turned into reality for their stay, which makes it so much easier in our post-stay communication to solicit their advocacy and their lifetime value. Kind of like with a relationship, if all goes well, truth is there, they like what they hear, you like what you hear, the relationship continues on. Same too with us with marketing, operations, and our guests. More of what we say turns into reality. That reality turns into more what we say is being good. They want to share that with others. The relationship gets bonded. The lifetime value is there. They appreciate doing business with us. When they come back into our area and choose to be with us in our destination, ours is the hotel of their choice. And that's how that kind of works in that truth of candor conversations. So there you have it. That's our very specific conversation related to the truth of that handoff between marketing and operations, and vice versa backwards after their stay. all from observations as I travel back again internationally and seeing the wonder of people when they first arrive at a place they've never been. And I still enjoy that being over here. And the um, reality of it, like it's not as clean as they thought it was going to be, or it's not as tall as it was supposed to be, or as big as it was supposed to be. Have you ever been to the Alamo? I always thought it was supposed to be bigger than what it was, from what I remember. It's just it's one of those things I remember if I'm seeing the Alamo, and uh, it just was like I expected it to be bigger. No, anyway, one of those things. Anyway, thank you so much for going down this road of discussion with me. As always, you can watch us live on our TV channel, the Hospitality Channel, on your Roku, Google, Amazon, or Apple, if you're doing that already. If not, one way of doing it. The other is, of course, our simulcast that we always do on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Multiple pages, multiple channels. Except for LinkedIn, there's only one channel. That's fine. And then, of course, Twitch. We do it if you use your gaming console for media. We do have an audio podcast that we do after this show. Part of it is a recap of the live show, but more importantly, also, we get into tools and techniques very specific to the tools about doing particular functionalities and so forth. And our podcast this week will be a lot about communication tools and collaboration tools between you and other departments, and then you and other guests, so that free-flowing dialogue of two-way communication is there. So thank you for obviously listening to us on our live show. And of course, for those that also follow us on the podcast, this is for the live show, the TV channel that we do here now. We've been doing that. We're in our 9th year, and we've been doing it every week, regardless of where we are, whether we're in China, Australia, Europe, Canada, wherever, US mainly. And then our podcast, we've actually been doing it for 17 years, but 9 years, same too with the live show every week. So if you want to catch any of our shows, live show or podcast, you can find them on our Forever I Love Lucy rerun website, which is hospitalitychannel.tv. If you'd like to join our Hospitality Marketing Club, fellow hospitality marketers, peer group, you can go to the hospitalitymarketing.club, put in your email, I'll send you a quiz, pass 90% or above, showing you are working in this industry and that you know how these things are. We're not there to teach basic. We're here to have a peer level professional group of hospitality marketing. Then you'll be sent an invite. You can join our constant weekly dialogue. We do live Q&As, live sessions, lots of fun, cool stuff. So with that, my name is Loren Gray. I thank you for the privilege of your time, and I look forward to talking to you all next week.